Today, President Trump persisted in his attacks on a group of Democratic lawmakers who released a video urging U.S. military and intelligence community representatives to refuse illegal orders. Here's what the president said during an interview with Fox News Radio.
You're not threatening them. A lot of people are interpreting this as a threat and their security.
Well, I'm not threatening them, but I think they're in serious trouble. I would say they're in serious trouble. I'm not threatening death, but I think they're in serious trouble. In the old days, it was death.
Joining me now, Mark Montgomery, retired U.S. Rear Admiral with the United States Navy. Sir, it's great to have you with us. I opened my show last night talking about Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, about the duty to follow a legal order with a qualifier that you must disobey an illegal order. And I went into some of the definitions on that. For my audience's benefit, try to explain where this debate currently is.
Well, thank you for having me. And, one thing about this debate is it's come out, it's unnecessarily public and kind of polarizing and political, which is the one thing we don't need to be doing with the active duty military. So that part's unfortunate. It is a reasonable discussion to have. If you think an order is illegal, you should, or immoral, you should register your difference with your superior, and then if the order comes down again, then your options are to resign. And I think the six congressmen, those pictures you have up there, kind of stated that. The hard part is determining what's an illegal order. It is these issues that they're dealing with right now aren't clearly cut and dry in a way that I think that makes it, and that introduces the politics into it of, probably the majority of one party thinks it's illegal and the majority of the other party does not.
Right. And that's what the reaction of those Republicans who were asked about it said, well, that video basically tells members of the United States military and the intelligence community who may not be well versed in the technicalities to not follow orders. Is that how you interpreted that video?
Look, they're not in the chain of command, so I didn't interpret it that way. And the kind of officers, the rank of the officers are so, making these decisions and in these positions are, generals, admirals, colonels, lieutenant colonels, majors, and associated Navy ranks. They understand the rules. They didn't need a lecture or a discussion. And so I think I do not believe this has that deleterious effect that the president is worried about. Look, and so therefore, I think, do I think that there are officers that are standing aside or resigning over this? Yes. Both judge advocate generals who are lawyers, I know, have stood aside in some of the combatant commands, and very publicly, it appears that the U.S. Southern Command commander, a four-star Navy admiral, has retired rather than continue to carry out these orders.
You mentioned judge advocate generals, otherwise known as JAGs. Those ranks have been thinned dramatically in the second iteration of the Trump administration. Is that part of this larger context that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I think it is. And look, it was unusual when Secretary Hegseth came in. He fired General Brown, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Admiral Franchetti. She was the chief of naval operations, the vice chief staff of the Air Force, General Slafe, and then three judge advocate generals from the Army, Navy, and Air Force, and whose names aren't publicly known and whose opinions aren't known and whose adherence to diversity, equity, inclusivity actions in the past wasn't known. I think they were fired to just clear the decks so they could interview judge advocate generals to find ones whose opinions more match the secretary's.
And is that what judge advocate generals are supposed to do? Have opinions that match the defense secretary or that follow the law, international and U.S.?
That's the opposite. And look, almost every career military officer is like, oh, that's lawyers. But the reality is these, especially in these combat situations, these judge advocate generals provide you with the necessary legal context for the action you're about to take. So you want someone who's not a yes man or yes woman. You want someone who has a questioning attitude, brings you the options, and explains to you the gradations of choice in there. So, we have fantastic judge advocate generals. We had fantastic judge advocate generals who were let go for no apparent reason other than they'd been selected by Secretary Hegseth's predecessor. I mean, we know that's the only reason they were let go. And, as a result, Secretary Hegseth has deprived himself of a sounding board for a better understanding of what's legal, what's illegal, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate.
Very important context. Retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me.